What is up, everybody? It's JT Sports. I'm back at you guys again with episode 6 of the JT Sports Podcast. And on this episode, we have my guy NMDTV on. We're going to be talking about various college football topics in this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. We're going to be talking about Miami Hurricanes recruiting, Jamie Newman versus JT Daniels, and how good will LSU be this upcoming college football season? Can they possibly repeat and be back-to-back national champions in college football? Okay, everybody, so for the first segment, we're going to be talking about Miami Hurricanes football and how they have been one of the hottest teams in college football in terms of the recruiting landscape. And we have my guy NMDTV on. What's going on, NMDTV?
It's just a great time. It seems like we may get some college football, so I'm ready to go. I'm live and ready to go, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, man. So, Miami Hurricanes football, despite not having a lot of success last season, they're still finding ways to bring in very good recruits. And that is no shortage of anything surprising when you look at the fact that they brought in a 5-star safety in James Williams. So what's your thoughts on that?
I'll tell you right now, Manny Diaz is pulling off miracles right now. And it's really crazy how on fire Miami's recruiting is. And right now, there's just rumors, but there's a lot left to be done. But right now, you look at Miami, according to 247, they got the number 3 overall class in the ACC and the number 11 nationally ranked. And last week, it was crazy because James Williams, out of nowhere, James Williams actually goes to Georgia on a recruiting visit. Before the pandemic, everybody had, including me, James Williams going to Georgia. Well, he goes to Georgia last week, comes back. I guess he went to Georgia to tell everybody he's not coming because when he came back, he committed to the U. A lot of people didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. And it was so crazy that Twitter was trending Miami Hurricanes and James Williams worldwide because it was such big news. So you add him, and that was amazing. But even before that, you look at Miami able to pick up 4-star Jacoby George out of Plantation, one of the best running backs out of Florida, and Thad Franklin, and then Romello Brinson, who had one of the best announcements ever. He brought in a little truck with the video on the back. It was live, but the 6'2", 180-pound, 4-star wide receiver out of Northwestern. Miami has done a great job with that pipeline of Northwestern. And then you add James Williams this past week. Everybody's excited, but now everybody's looking at the Palmetto 5. Everybody's looking at Leonard Taylor, Jason Marshall, Collier, Smith. People are looking to see where these guys go. And, man, if Miami can pull it off, it would be a miracle, basically.
And a lot of people are really surprised at the success that Miami is having recruiting, even though Miami hasn't necessarily produced the best product on the field recently. But the thing with Miami is that despite not having great teams, Miami has always recruited very well. Do you think that's well to say?
Well, I will say that. I think Miami's always recruited fairly well. Last year wasn't that great of a recruiting class, only because, the retiring of Mark Rick, Manny Diaz had to come in quickly. He had to get people from the transfer portal. But since we've had Manny Diaz, you look at on the field, things haven't been great. He's only played a year, but the off-season within recruiting within the transfer portal and recruiting high school kids to come to Miami has been top-notch. You look at the pandemic. I think the pandemic helped out a lot. To be frank, to be honest with you, last year's season ended terribly. Lost to Louisiana Tech, we lost to FIU, we lost to Duke. But the pandemic gave Manny Diaz and the coaching staff a chance to go out and get these players without the SEC schools really, being able to travel and go in and get the guys. Lack of travel definitely played a part in it. But I always say this: I think the pandemic gave Miami an opportunity, but you got to credit the staff, Packy, Panda, Rump, Manny Diaz, Coach Baker. You gotta give them credit because they opportunity. The opportunity was there, and right now they're taking advantage of it. And recruiting-wise, Miami's on top. Now we got to see if they can translate that to on the field.
Okay, man. So on to the next segment. All right, everybody. So another topic that I want to ask my guy NMD TV on is, what are 3 players for the Miami Hurricanes football program this year that will break out for the Hurricanes this season in 2020?
3 players that's going to break out, man. When you say break out, I think about, Miami's going to have a couple different players really step up. But I have a couple in mind. Let me think. First, I don't even have to think about my first one. I want everybody to know. I've been saying this from the jump. Everybody will know the name Jeremiah Payton by the end of the year. 4-star wide receiver, redshirted last year, coming into this year. Miami got De'Aaron King, so they have a quarterback. Miami got a new offensive coordinator, Rhett Lashlee, so they got an offense. I think Jeremiah Payton is a guy that a lot of people thought, including me, that he would have some time last year. He didn't get a lot of time. He showed a little bit of flashes, but he's tall, physical, and fast for his size. He's not like a mountain monster. I think he's about 6'6", but he's long and he uses his size well. I think he uses wingspan pretty well. Good catch radius, and I think next year, at the end of next year, everybody will be talking about Jeremiah Payton. Player number 2, even though this guy's a freshman, I think next year, this is a guy who I followed, and I think he's going to be a great running back. And it's Jalen Knight out of Deerfield Beach. Remember, Miami got 2 big running backs in their last class. They got Don Chaney Jr., and they got Jalen Knight out of Deerfield Beach. Listen, this kid is spectacular. Like, his running style is he has just natural instinct. Things that he does are just like, for instance, I'm going to give you an instance. I don't even know how you even put this in the football terms, but he spins off one guy. As soon as he gets done spinning, he's already leaping over another guy. Like, how do you even do that in full football pass? Spin off one guy in the same instant, leap over another guy. Now, obviously, he's a freshman. He's going to have to, Miami only got 1 spring practice, so he's going to have to get acclimated with the running back. Cam Harris is going to be our starting running back, but behind him in a Rhett Lashlee style offense, I think Jalen Knight is a guy that a lot of people should really think about, and he can make big plays for Miami. And my last guy, coming into this year, you're going to hear the name Gregory Rousseau, and you're going to hear Quincy Roche. Gregory Rousseau, we all know what he did last year, sack after sack after sack. And what's crazy about that is he didn't even start the first 4 or 5 games. So you think about that. Then you got Quincy Roche coming through the transfer portal, who had double-digit stats, was the AAC Player of the Year. You like him. But I like Jabari Harvey. We've been seeing reports. He plays the defensive end position. I think a lot of focus is going to be on Gregory Rousseau and Quincy Roche. And when you're able to funnel in a guy like Harvey, he's going to be able to do some grown man type of things. So, and I got one more too, because this is my guy. A lot of people said he's too small. A lot of people said he's too short. But look out for the cornerback, to Corey Couch. I really like that guy a lot.
All right, everybody. So this is NMD TV on the line. Make sure that you guys go ahead and subscribe and check out his channels. He has 2 YouTube channels. He has NMD TV Canes, and he has his main channel, NMD TV. You guys make sure to go ahead and subscribe to both of those channels. The link to those will be down in the description and the YouTube comment section. And if you're listening to this on podcast format, then this will be in the show notes. So NMD TV, when we talk about Gregory Rousseau, is it fair to say that he has kind of already arrived? Because this is a guy who already has top 10 NFL projections on him, and he probably could declare as soon as next year's NFL draft. So, I mean, is it fair to say that he's kind of already arrived?
Here's my thing to that. If he went to the NFL draft, I think he'd go first round. I think he could go 15, but you never know what the scout, or you never know what coaches are thinking. So, but first round is something that I'm safe to say. I got to see it again. I got to see it again because here's my thing. He didn't start the first 4 games. I think a lot of people didn't have a lot of film on it. And it's easy for people to say, well, he was a one-hit wonder. If he comes back and he can be disruptive, and not just with sacks, but with pressures, with taking 2 or 3 guys to block him and let other players get sacked, I think then we can say he is arrived. So I think it just depends on who you are. What I can tell you is he is a humble beast. That's what I call him. He's a guy that everybody talks about. He just puts in work, puts in grind, and he lets it show on the field. And last year, he was unblockable. Was it a one-hit wonder? We'll find out this season. But I'll tell you one thing. We got some dogs. Miami has some dogs on that defensive line that if you do think you're just going to be able to block Russo with 2 guys, there's going to be other guys that have opportunities. But I always say, and JT, you're a football fanatic, you know this too. It's different when teams have a full offseason to watch film on you.
Mm-hmm.
Then, they can kind of cook up some things. So we'll definitely see. I myself, I don't think it was a one-hit wonder, but I understand if somebody wants to say, let's not crown them just yet. I totally understand that.
And I can understand that too. And I tell people, a lot of people who like to say a team's going to have a full offseason to game plan for them, I normally say that, yeah, that may be true, but let's not act like the same player that they're going to be game planning from is going to be the same player from last year. Like, this guy could come back and be better. And like I told people, like, a good example of this, I tell people, a lot of people say the Ravens had a gimmicky offense last season. I say, look, just because defensive coordinators are game planning all off season for Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense, just because you can game plan for it doesn't mean you're going to be able to stop it.
And that's why I wanted to emphasize how hard of a worker he is, because he's going to continue to work hard and get better. And I broke down the film. You can look at it on YouTube. I broke down Gregory Rousseau's film. A lot of his sacks came off of use of his body, like being able to, with one arm, power rush, and then sling a guy with the same arm, stab, then throw you down, all in one motion. That was amazing. And then hustling to the ball. At times, he didn't have a second or third pass rushing move. This offseason, if he gets a second, third move, get a little bit better with his hands, he really will be unstoppable, because last year, his size bothered everybody, and the coaching staff did a great job moving him around. So I agree with that. Coaches are going to have a good chance to game plan, but Gregory Rousseau is going to be a different player. And I saw film last year that I saw some opportunities that he can get better at, and if he does that, then wow.
So what is your expectations for Gregory Rousseau? Give us a realistic stat line that you could see Gregory Rousseau putting up this season.
I really don't have an expectation stat-wise. I just think he's going to have to be disruptive. I think, anybody can look at it defensively and say, he only got 2 sacks. He's not good. But when you look at his film, did he force a holding call? Because to me, you force a holding call, that's like a sack. Did he, Chase Young, for example? People talk about Chase Young against Wisconsin. Then you look at the film, they got 3 players guarding the man. Guarding the man. I mean, you only can do so much. But I tell you one thing, if you have a defensive end that's guarding 3, that's taking 3 blockers to block them, you're opening up opportunities. And I think if you look at Malik Harrison of Ohio State, who was another player that got drafted by the Ravens, a lot of his opportunities came because you're focused on Chase Young, and you got Harrison here who's taking advantage of the opportunity to show how good he was, and he was able to make plays. So I don't have a stat line. I just want to see, can he still be disruptive like he was last year, or will he disappear?
All right, man. So everybody, this is NMD TV. Once again, make sure that you guys go ahead and subscribe to his YouTube channel, NMD TV and NMD TV Canes. If you guys are listening to this on the podcast, make sure that you go ahead and click those show notes down below and go ahead and subscribe to him there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you go ahead in the comment section and description down below and subscribe to both of his channels. All right, NMD. So let's switch conferences. Let's go to the SEC East and Georgia. So, a couple of days ago, it has just been announced that JT Daniels is going to be eligible to play right away. Now, I don't know how the NCAA does these immediate transfer things or whatever the case is. It seems like they just basically, they close their eyes and they just spin the reel to determine who's going to be eligible to play and who's not going to be eligible to play. So, now you got Jamie Newman versus JT Daniels and Georgia. Who do you think is going to end up coming out on top in that quarterback battle? And do you even think there's a quarterback battle at all?
Oh, well, it's definitely a quarterback battle. Definitely a quarterback battle. First thing, let's talk about the NCAA. I think because of the pandemic, they're just allowing, if you transfer, you're going to get immediately eligibility. That's from what I've seen. I don't think I've seen any high-profile players apply for a waiver and not get it. You know, I look at Shorter, the wide receiver from Penn State, who transferred to Florida. He's eligible. Lorenzo Lingard, he's eligible. And now you look at JT Daniels, he's going to be eligible. So I think they're kind of being lax because of the pandemic. And I think if you have a good lawyer, you can use the pandemic in your favor. But is there a quarterback battle? Heck, yes, the quarterback battle. And if I'm Jamie Newman, I feel a little bit disrespected because let me tell you, Georgia fans have been wanting and pleading for a high-octane offense. And you know what Kirby Smart did? He said, you know what? I'm going to deliver to you. I'm going to bring in Coach Matt Luke. I'm going to bring in Todd Monken. I'm going to bring in other guys on a coaching staff that is good with the offense. I'm going to bring in Scott Cochran to help, bring him over from Alabama, strength and conditioning, special teams. They did all this stuff to make Georgia fans think they're going to a spread-like offense. You get to a dual-threat quarterback from Wake Forest and J.B. Newman, a guy who, he has flashes. He's not perfect. He's not terrible. And I think when you put him in the room, the talent that Georgia has, they definitely can do some great things. And with this coaching staff, because they have a good coaching staff, I thought that, hey, Georgia can make some moves. Then all of a sudden, you got JT Daniels from USC. Some people thought he would go to Tennessee. Some people thought he may stay at USC. Some people thought he would go to LSU. And he goes to Georgia. Remember, JT Daniels was a 5-star recruit. Started for USC right off the bat. Got injured, ended up losing his starting spot. And now he's at Georgia. This is a quarterback battle. Because I don't think you get immediately eligible if they didn't promise you something. You know, I just don't know. And Jamie Newman was already there. I bet Jamie Newman, they got him. They got coaches to put around him to fit his scheme and to fit the direction that Georgia's going to go. I bet Jamie Newman was feeling good. And all of a sudden, you bring JT Daniels in, who can take the job. The thing with when I look at these two quarterbacks, I look at JT Daniels and Georgia fans are used to Jake Fromm. Safe, but you got a great leader. You know what you're going to get. I tell you one thing, JT Daniels, this guy's a gunslinger. He's going to throw the ball up. Maybe good, maybe bad, but he's going to sling the rock. J.B. Newman, the dual-threat quarterback who does have an arm. He put up good numbers with the wide receiver Surratt from Wake Forest. You have a battle here, and it's going to be up to Kirby Smart, Todd Monken to figure out who's going to be that quarterback.
Yeah, man, I have to agree with you, even though I still do want to give the slight edge to Jamie Newman just since he's been with the program a little bit a while longer than JT Daniels, so I think he kind of knows the playbook a little bit more than JT Daniels. Not saying that JT Daniels can't catch up to Jamie Newman, but another thing with Jamie Newman is just that when you watch Jamie Newman, it's like this guy has it's like if you're able to win at Wake Forest isn't necessarily known for being a football school. If you're able to be successful at Wake Forest, I think that kind of has to be able to take you a little bit of a long way. Like being able to win at Wake Forest is kind of the equivalent to being able to win at Duke with like Daniel Jones, for a good example. So if you're able to win at a school like Wake Forest that has a significant amount of less talent than a school like Georgia, I think that's going to make you a little bit of a better player. Meanwhile, you look at a guy like JT Daniels. Although USC hasn't been able to recruit at what they've been able to recruit back in the early 2000s, they still have a pretty solid roster. Most of their rosters combined with 4-star and 5-star guys. So you look at a guy like Jamie Newman, this is a guy who's been able to win with less at Wake Forest versus a guy in JT Daniels who has been able to win with way more. And if you ask me, who would you rather prefer? Would you rather prefer the guy who has been able to win more with less, or the guy who hasn't really been able to have a lot of success with more? And I kind of would have to go with Jamie Newman.
I like what you said about Jamie Newman being there early because he probably already is deep dive into the playbook. You know, because of the pandemic, you're not going to get that a lot of time with your team, so that's definitely going to hurt JT Daniels. Also, JT Daniels coming off an injury. So if I had to give a slight advantage, I would give it to Jamie Newman, but it's all up to what Kirby wants to do. So we'll definitely find out.
Yeah, man. So now let's talk about the ACC conference. Now I know we talked about the Miami Hurricanes for a good bit on this episode of the podcast, but let's dive into the whole entire conference. So when you look at the ACC has basically been Clemson and everybody else for the past few years, and it hasn't even been close. Well, this year, NMD TV, what team in the ACC do you think has the best shot at beating Clemson? And you can also include Notre Dame because it is rumors and reports that are coming out that are saying that Notre Dame may be part of the ACC for just this season, so you can include them if you want to. But who do you think has the best chance to beat Clemson?
Candidates in my eyes. First of all, I do want to state that I think it's Clemson and everybody else. You know, you got to give the respect that Clemson deserves. They've been winning the ACC. It hasn't been close. So everybody's trying to catch up to them. But you want to look at the names that people are talking about. North Carolina, Mac Brown, Sam Howell, Dan Newsom. These are guys that a lot of people are excited about, and they think North Carolina can take the step in. They almost beat Clemson. You know?
Yep.
They almost beat Clemson. So, you know, you got to think about them. Of course, Notre Dame, you know, the reports are saying that they're looking to join the ACC. So, for 1 year, because of the pandemic and whatnot, so you got to include Notre Dame. They only lost a couple games last year. They gave Georgia a run for their money. You got to look at Miami. Miami brings in De'Aaron King. People will say whatever you want to about Miami, but once you have a good quarterback, remember, De'Aaron King has broke records established. You got to put them as a candidate. And then my underdog is Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
Pittsburgh, yes, Pittsburgh. People aren't talking about them. People aren't talking about Pittsburgh, but I think they got, I would say, 90% of their defense coming back. With their best defensive player was hurt last year. He'll be back this year, and I think they're going to have one of the best defenses in the nation next year. I honestly believe that when you look at the defensive side, and we know what Pat Narduzzi can do as a defensive mind. So I like Pittsburgh as my wild card. But right now, man, the best candidate I think is for the tanking. I mean, I hate to come on here and not give a definitive answer because you know I like to stand by what I mean, and I love to throw out takes, whether they're cold takes or hot takes. But who can realistically say North Carolina? Because, you know, North Carolina, they did play Clemson tight, but they didn't have a great end to their season. You know what I'm saying? They're losing a couple of their running backs. Yes, Sam Howell's going to get better. But, hey, then you look at Miami. You can say, well, Miami, you guys always say you're back. And, you know, last year I was excited. I thought Miami could challenge Clemson, and it didn't even get close to happening. In Pittsburgh, you know, Pittsburgh hasn't done much in the ACC, but mean, Brian Kelly, I love him, but when it gets tough, they falter. They're just the bottom line.
Yep.
If his team that's supposed to be, they're going to beat them. I honestly don't know, man, but I can just tell you those are my candidates to challenge Clemson. If I had to choose, I would say Miami, only because of this. De'Aaron King, I believe in college football, when you play somebody just one time, it comes down to who is the best player on the field. And I think Miami, with De'Aaron King changes the game plan versus anybody because he can throw, he can run, and he just has that dynamic factor. So that's what I think.
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take UNC. I'm going to take North Carolina. Here's why. North Carolina played them extremely tight. And one thing about Clemson is that everybody talks about Trevor Lawrence, but when you look at what Trevor Lawrence did last year, I mean, he wasn't all that impressive in my opinion. I mean, he was good at times, but I mean, he was really inconsistent. Like, I don't know, it's just something about Trevor Lawrence last year. Like, his season was a little bit rocky. And I really like UNC because of Sam Howell. And a lot of people aren't really talking about Sam Howell like that. But this guy was phenomenal as a freshman. I mean, as a Miami Hurricane fan, what was it, the fourth and... Oh, I forgot. I know it was... Yep. I remember that play. And Sam Howell, man, I think when you look at what he did as a freshman last season, I think he's only going to be better going into this year. And I really like Mac Brown. I really like the coaching staff. And I think a dark horse has to be Miami. The thing with Miami is just that it all comes down to the coaches and can they get the most out of these players. Like, I think Miami is a serious dark horse because when you look at a team in the ACC that can compete with Clemson from a talent standpoint, it most definitely is Miami. I mean, I don't think it's really any other team in the ACC that has more talent on their roster other than Clemson than Miami. Like, Miami recruits very well. Some people may say Florida State, but Florida State has a lot of holes they have to fill as well. And then another dark horse, I probably would say Notre Dame, but I mean, Notre Dame, when they face against like elite competition, they kind of falter. And then a real dark horse that I know a lot of people in the comment section and you may not agree with, but I want to say Virginia Tech. Like, when you look at what Virginia Tech was able to do last year, they surprised a lot of people. A lot of people were expecting Virginia Tech to not really be all that great, and they were able to assemble a very solid team, and they had a very good coaching clinic that they put on last year, and they surprised a lot of people. So I think Virginia Tech is a really deep sleeper. So, I mean, what do you think about that list?
The thing about Virginia Tech is I just think they got a lot of turmoil inside their program. I don't know what's been going on for the last couple years, but I just don't like the turmoil. I don't know, man. It's hard for me to say exactly what it is, but a lot of players have left the program. A lot of players that went into the transfer portal. I like their quarterback Hooker, but I want people to realize what's going on at Pittsburgh. Rashard Weaver, Kayshawn, both of them are coming back. Both of those are stacked Arquette. I think they got 8 or 9 people coming back on the defense. The quarterback situation, they're going to have an experienced quarterback, and I can't even think of his name. He ended up defeating Miami last. Golly, why can't I think of his name? I don't know. Here, cut that out. But but they got more. They lose Maurice French, who had 96 receptions last year. Their quarterback is definitely slipping my mind. I'm so sorry, but he fixed the offense well. He does what he needs to do. But most importantly, you need defense to beat Clemson. If Pittsburgh has a defense that can keep them in a game with anybody, especially the way that they sack the quarterback. And I want to say something about Trevor Lawrence. He didn't have the most amazing year last year, but I think that's because he did so much as a freshman that it was so much pressure, so much people were expecting so much of him. There's only so much you can do, So I think if any other quarterback had the season he had last year, it would have been kind of as good. But because he did so good his freshman year, last year people just look at it like a man season. sleeping on LSU. I don't think LSU lost a lot. It's tough for me to say next year is going to be their year. I think they're going to have to work out some growing pains. They lost everybody. Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, running back, quarterback. They lost Joe. They lost everybody. If we can name down the list. Does that mean they don't have talent? No. We know they got a Reed Gilbert. We know they got Derek Stingley Jr. We know. And this is the guy I want everybody to remember because he slept on so much. Terrence Marshall Jr. One of the best wide receivers in the SEC that people do not talk about. They don't give him the respect, and rightfully so, because of what happened with the receiving corps last year. But if I was put my betting money on it, I would say they're not going to win the national championship. But they do have the talent where 2-3 years down the line they can get things going. I just think it's an uphill battle with coaching staff and chemistry and the players because it's the pandemic and you've had so much changes. It's not like you had these changes and then you got a spring practice to practice and then you got the off season and then you got everything's crazy right now. Nobody's even practicing. Hell, nobody's even working out together. So I think that's going to hurt LSU. But I want people to realize LSU does have the talent. I don't think they have a national championship talent. But hey, if you had asked me this time last year, although I did say Joe Burrow was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, I did not think they were going to do what they did this past year. So that goes to show you never know.
I would like to say that I think LSU does have a pretty good chance to repeat. Now, I know they lost a lot, but I think a lot of people like to call LSU's 2019 season a fluke because we're still unknown about LSU. Like, we don't know if they're going to be able to replicate that success. And it's kind of like with Clemson. Like, the year Clemson won the national championship with Deshaun Watson, and they lost a lot of people. Everybody was saying Clemson is never going to win another national championship again. And in college football, I think a lot of people have a hard time, like, admitting when a new team emerges in the championship picture. And Clemson was one of the more recent teams to kind of have that label on them. A lot of people were saying that Clemson wasn't going to be able to do anything after Deshaun Watson left and he got drafted by the Texans. And Clemson had to go out and they had to prove to a lot of people that they were able to become that national powerhouse. And I think that LSU can do that. And, like, when you have a great program, you're going to constantly lose great players. You're going to constantly lose coordinators. But I think the main part of that is being able to establish a good winning culture in that locker room. And that's something that I think LSU has kind of did, especially when you look at head coach Ed Orgeron. I mean, what he has done, what he has built in that LSU locker room is something special. And I know a couple of my friends have actually took a visit down to LSU recently, and they say the same thing. It's just something different about LSU. Like, they just have a little bit something different. So, I mean, I do believe that they could repeat this year. Now, will they repeat? Probably not, but I do think that they have a pretty better chance than what most people are giving them to repeat as national champions. And I know Miles Brennan is supposed to be the guy who's supposed to step in for Joe Burrow, but I mean, they don't need Miles Brennan to be Joe Burrow. I mean, if they could just get half of Joe Burrow out of Miles Brennan, I think that'd be great. Then, like you said, you got Terrence Marshall, you got Jamar Chase, who is considered to be the best wide receiver going into the 2021 NFL draft at this point. So, I mean, they have the talent, man. And I mean, like, a lot of people forget, like, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, teams that are constantly in the national championship picture, they're always losing great players year in and year out, but they always have 5- and 4-star guys who are able to come in and fill those shoes, man. So, I mean, I think LSU could repeat. Will they repeat? Like you said, I'm going to say no, but I'm not counting them out.
I just want to make a couple things. Okay, so the Clemson, when you're comparing LSU to Clemson, Ohio State, you got to realize those programs were built. The LSU this past season, everything, all the stars aligned, and they made it happen. When Clemson lost Deshaun Watson, yes, they lost Deshaun Watson, but they kept most of their coaching staff. Tad Forrest left, and now, years and I definitely appreciate you having me on to get my opinion on it.
Yeah, man. So everybody, this is my guy NMD TV, man. I've known NMD TV for a while, and make sure that you guys go ahead and check out his channel. Make sure that you guys go ahead and subscribe to NMD TV Canes and NMD TV. The link to those will be down in the comment section and description down below if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, you guys can make sure to go ahead and follow those in the show notes. Also, make sure to follow his Twitters as well. Those will be down in the description and the show notes as well. NMD TV, man, thanks for coming on, man.